Welcome back. This is episode 244 of the Veterinary Business video show. In this episode, we'll hear about a major business opportunity at the low cost end of the spectrum, and we'll explore how to find a way to make your practice stand out from the crowd. We'll learn the importance of client cognition. We'll hear how to ask for help if you're struggling to work in the practice as a vet and on the practice as an investor. And I'll offer you my quick business tip for this episode. I'm John Sheridan, and this is the video show from Veterinary Business. The traditional role of a veterinary practice in a local community was to offer professional advice and services to all the owners and carers of animals in that area. Over the years, with more competition and more discerning and demanding clients, we've learned the need to be much more focused on a small segment of that market. It might be small animals or farm work. It might be species specific, cats only, for example. Or it might be primary care and referral. Another segment might be based on a cost, with high price, low volume at one end of the scale and high volume, low cost at the other. Here's a clip from Michael Dix, who suggests that there may be a major business opportunity at the low-cost end of the spectrum.
There's two general business models that are available, and almost every business does one or the other. It's not a good or bad, it's just a different way of doing business. One, as I use the example of, I'm selling Mercedes-Benz, right? So I'm going to sell very few Mercedes, but I'm going to sell them at a very high profit. Right, each one. On the other hand, I could be a used car salesman, and I'm not going to get a very high markup on a used car, so I got to sell lots of them, right? And so on one hand, I'm looking at profitability. I'm trying to maintain as high a profit as I can, and on the other one, I'm using more of what we call a turns model. I'm trying to get high volume, low price, and veterinarians can do the same thing. Predominantly today, the business model is to focus on profitability, and we have priced ourselves in such a situation where most of our clients are above median household income. And there's this enormous market potential of pet owners that have less than median household income. So the question is how do we provide the care that those pets need at a low cost so that it's affordable and doable for them? That's a huge market potential out there, and it's sort of the new it's the high growth area of veterinary medicine, and there's lots of companies that are trying to get into that space. The nice thing is, if you're a veterinary business and you have a practice someplace, you're probably focused on profitability, and you're probably 80%, 90% of your clients are in that high end. But that doesn't mean that you want to try to lower your price in that practice to get the low income. What you need to do is think about investing in some satellite practice where you're maybe there 1 or 2 days a week that provides that services for some of the lower income people. That market is there, and if you don't take it, sooner or later somebody's going to come in and grab that market.
Now let's see who's on the video show Soapbox. There's little doubt that competition in the veterinary practice market gets tougher and tougher, with many more providers of veterinary care looking for a share of the market. Selecting a small market segment or niche is one way for a practice to respond. Another is to find a way to make your practice stand out from all the others in some other way. Here's a clip in which Eric Garcia, in a conversation with Dave Nichol, offers some advice.
Eric, one of the most common questions that I hear getting asked is how does one differentiate oneself from the competition in this, with a number of options, and how does one not differentiate oneself from the competition? What are you seeing?
Absolutely. So there are a few things that I recommend to practices just to differentiate themselves in what's an ever-saturated marketplace. So the first thing is looking at their websites, looking at the content on their website. I don't want to see the same generic, we're full service veterinary practice
Right, you mean that doesn't attract clients?
No, I mean,
no.
but
What, they don't believe us?
no, right, correct. Like,
Why doesn't it attract clients? Because you see that on every practice
sure.
website, right?
It's not that I don't think that it attracts clients. I think it does, but when you're trying to differentiate yourself from the competition,
Right.
So we know that people take an opportunity to research 2 to 3 businesses before they determine which one they're going to.
Right.
So what is it that you're doing to differentiate yourself from your competitors? And so looking at the content on your website and making sure that you personalize it as much as possible. So telling me why it is that you started your veterinary practice. Why did you go to vet school? What is it that motivates you every day when you come to work with animals?
Yeah.
What's your philosophy? These are all things that you can do to personalize the content on your website to make it something that people can't replicate easily. A lot of it has to do with having a presence in multiple places. So we know that a lot of times when pet owners are starting to search, they end up going on Google, which accounts for over 70% of where people search.
Right.
What they're looking for there and what influences in terms of how you rank there are the reviews that you're getting. So making sure that you have good, positive, fresh reviews from pet owners.
Right.
From that point, they end up going to your website
Yeah.
to learn just a little bit more about the practice. One of the most visited pages is the Our Veterinarians page.
Okay.
So they're going from there. And then usually, because most practices are participating on social media, most practices end up linking social media on their website.
Right.
Then we know that they end up going to social media and seeing what type of conversations are had there.
3 pieces of cool content you see and 3 pieces of dreadful content. What's very poor content to put on in your web space?
Yeah.
And what's better?
Okay, so I'll tell you what's horrible is just sharing facts and statistic and generic information, right? So on social media, I see this on websites when practices are trying to educate clients. They just share pure facts and statistics. They'll say 1 in 3 this,
Yeah.
23% of that.
Yeah.
Pet owners don't engage with that type of content. From
Less
that.
facts, more stories.
Yep.
That's one.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Poor video content. So video footage where I want to see the people in the practice. I want to see the human-animal bond in this video.
Right.
I want to see you doing what you love. And I think that there's a huge opportunity when it comes to video to helping educate pet owners by doing that.
All right, so that's number 2. Let's make better quality video and not just speaking the bad stuff that's on our website. Number 3.
Third poor piece of content for me actually has to do with the reminder services when it comes to trying to get pet owners to come back into practice.
Now for a tip from the top in the business world of veterinary practice. I was thinking recently about the difference between animal owners regarded as customers by some investors in veterinary practice and as clients by the majority. I've always felt that a customer is looking for a good deal for the right product or service at the right price as a one-off transaction. Client, on the other hand, is also looking for a good deal at the right price, but as part of a much longer term working relationship. Building that relationship is a two-way process. The practice needs to understand as much as possible about the client, the animal, the role that the pet plays in the family, or the significance of the animal in the owner's business if it's owned for a commercial purpose, and so on. At the same time, the client will wish and should be encouraged to learn as much as possible about the problem which has brought them to the practice and about the treatment or procedure which might be recommended. Here's a clip in which Joel Parker discusses the importance of the client's understanding of the issues involved if they're going to accept the professional advice on offer.
And this week we're talking about client cognition check. I want to quickly read to you what a cognition is here. This is out of the Google Dictionary. Cognition, the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding throughout thought, experience, and the senses. Okay, so the mental action of a process of acquiring knowledge and understanding. Okay, and it's been shown, for example, that when clients understand what you're delivering as a professional to them, when they truly have that cognition, that understanding that they can use and they really get it, then the factors such as quality of medicine and your reputation and the cost of services go down, and means that they'll stay with your practice longer if they understand. What's most interesting is that understanding is the final product of what we refer to as a good communication formula or good communication process that goes on. And there is some science behind communication. It's one of the courses we actually teach here at VPS, Veterinary Practice Solutions, is the science behind behind communication. But suffice to know that the end result of good communication is understanding on the receipt point, meaning the client in this case. Okay? So how do you know if they really understand? This is where you get into what's called client cognition check, whether they really got it. So the first thing when you're, for example, explaining a process to a client, whether this is lumbosacral instability or a intervertebral disc subluxation at T13L1, this kind of language we get into. When you're talking about that, make sure you go slow, okay? Make sure that you're delivering one little parcel of knowledge at a time, and make sure to check in often. Now, what do I mean by a check-in? For example, if you ask a client, your dog has got intervertebral disc prolapsing at T13L1, you probably lost them way back at the words, intervertebral, right? And they'll be kind of glazed over. Now, we've all gone to high school and schools, university and all that kind of stuff, and lo and behold, if you ask too many questions, like I did, you'd probably had a lot of people kind of snickering at you and laughing and so forth. And so there is a little bit of an embarrassment factor with most clients for them to even ask a question. So when you ask them, do you understand? They will inevitably say, yes, I do. Okay, so it's not, they're just shy about saying that they don't understand. So the real cognition check here is to check in and have the client talk about what the process is that's going on, or to actually draw it out. And be gentle, be kind, say, listen, we just talked about what's going on with your dog here, with this, disc material that is ruptured out and pinching the spinal cord. I'd like you to draw me a picture. It's just really important for me that I know that you truly understand this. And go slow and get them to draw back and forth. And two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to quickly find out whether you've been a good educator, okay? And a good educator is a person that looks to see and make sure that the client has a cognition at the end of what they're saying, that light bulb moment, and they really get what's going on. And then secondly, either they've got it, and if they don't have it, then it gives you a chance to, roll things back and go back through over. And
now for my quick business tip for this episode. My business tip today was triggered by a clip from Alan Robinson, founder of Vet Dynamics in the UK, and published online as a fast-forward feature by Vet Times. The audio is not the best quality, but the clip neatly summarises many of the issues facing veterinary owners of what we might describe as independent practices, struggling to work in their practice as vets and on their practices as a business.
We have a belief that the ongoing future integrity and really the soul of veterinary profession is in the practitioner who turns up every day, works very hard in their own practice. More and more we're becoming very much consumer-driven business, particularly on small animal side, and so these things do affect us most acutely. Of course, then the rise of the corporates come through. We've now got 6 major corporates in the profession, which is pretty impressive. There's been a real bubble produced in that. We haven't got that framework of support and experience, deep experience. Some of that's left the profession. Then we've got a younger generation coming through who it would seem are not as resilient in a more complex environment, because they need to know so much more, veterinary practice is so much more difficult, client expectations are so much higher. So we're losing them at the bottom end, no one's coming through, we're losing them at the top end, and then we've got a really overworked core in the middle who just don't know which way to turn. There's people out there in a veterinary business, and they put on the line, their money, they put online their marriage, they put online their mortgage, they put online their mental health, to be honest. Those 4 things are online every day you turn up to work, okay, particularly in veterinary medicine, okay? And if you think you can do it all on your own, you've already got a mental health problem, to be honest, because you've got a team, and to be honest, you've got us. And we want to be on your side, we want to be part of that team, and that's really how we see ourselves. One of our promises is, would an extra £50,000 per vet per year be useful to you? Because we can find that in any practice. That is the really easy bit. It's typical things vets do. Financially, they just leak money out of the system, plug a few gaps, and you can make that money easily. And it gives people a power back to themselves to say, look, take charge of your own destiny here, guys, and start to enjoy this, because it's still the very best job in the world.
So what's my quick business tip Well, it's this. The clip was published to promote the value of vet dynamics as a source of help for practice owners, especially in the UK. I have no commercial link with Vet Dynamics, but I know Alan very well and some of his team, and I'm well aware of the quality of their services and their reputation. My tip, however, is not necessarily to talk to Alan, but to recognise that if in your role in independent practice you're facing some of the problems that Alan has identified, then please do seek some professional advice and support. We're a small profession worldwide, and wherever you practice, you can be sure that there will be someone out there who can help you achieve all your professional and business objectives. You just have to ask. Well, that's about it for now. I'm John Sheridan, and this has been another video show from Veterinary Business. See you next time.